Nobody told the big teams this was going to be hard. They looked at the numbers and made that call themselves. 48 teams, 104 matches, 3 countries hosting it, the biggest World Cup ever staged. And somewhere in all that growth, the favorites talked themselves into the same conclusion. More teams means softer opposition. More groups means a kinder draw. More spots in the knockout rounds means more room to recover if results go sideways early on. Made sense on paper, lasted about 2 weeks in practice. Here is how this format actually works, because a lot of people still haven't properly worked through it. 48 teams drop into 12 groups of 4. Top 2 from each group go through automatically. Then the 8 best third-place teams from across all 12 groups also advance, going into a round of 32 that never existed at any World Cup before this one. That third-place route feels like breathing room. What it actually does is load pressure onto every group game from the opening whistle. When 8 of 12 third-place teams can still qualify, goal difference in matches that look low stakes suddenly isn't. A big team can't nick a 1-0 and conserve energy for the next one. That one-goal margin might be the difference between another nation going home or staying in the tournament, and the consequences of that ripple outward in ways nobody sitting in a pre-tournament planning meeting fully mapped out. Here is the number worth sitting with. The team that wins this World Cup plays 8 matches to lift the trophy. Qatar 2022 needed 7. 1 extra game. Say that to a squad that has spent 5 weeks playing in 30-degree heat, moving between host cities across 3 separate countries, and still has a quarterfinal and a semi-final ahead of them. 1 extra game stops feeling trivial pretty fast. The whole pitch for going to 48 teams was that the big nations would ease through a softer group stage, find their rhythm against weaker sides, and roll into the knockout rounds with momentum and relatively fresh legs. That is not what is happening. The smaller nations showed up and skipped the part where they were supposed to lose quietly. Through the opening 2 weeks, debutantes and lower-ranked teams haven't just stayed competitive. Some of them have made big countries look ordinary. Cape Verde have around 525,000 people. They're ranked 67th. This is their first World Cup. They held Spain to a 0-0 in Atlanta. Spain, a genuine favorite to win the whole thing, couldn't score against them, couldn't find a way through. Think about what that does to every other big nation watching. If Spain dropped points against a team that had never played at a World Cup before, where exactly is the safe ground? The format was designed to help the big teams. It keeps their coaches up at night instead. The physical cost is the thing that doesn't get talked about in plain terms enough. 7 wins to lift the trophy at Qatar 2022. 8 wins required here. 1 additional knockout match, built into a tournament that runs across North America in midsummer, with travel between cities that in some cases are several hours apart. The players showing up in the quarterfinal have already played more competitive football, in worse conditions, over a longer stretch of days, than any previous World Cup asked of them at that stage. That extra game is the difference between a squad still functioning properly and one quietly falling apart at the wrong moment. Coaches have no good answer to the workload problem either. Rotate the squad to protect legs and you break whatever tactical rhythm was building. Keep the best 11 on the pitch game after game and they're half empty by the time the actual tournament starts in the knockout rounds. Every decision carries a bill and none of them are small. Here is the part that got almost no coverage before the tournament kicked off. 12 teams finish third in their groups. 8 go through. 4 go home. The line between those outcomes can come down to goal difference, total goals scored, and if it's still level after that, FIFA ranking. Teams that finished third in different groups never played each other, so head-to-head is useless. What that produces is a group stage where almost nothing is finished until the final round of games. A big team comfortable in second place that plays conservatively in their last match might accidentally seal off a third-place team that was 1 goal away from qualifying. Then that same big team walks into the round of 32 facing someone they didn't expect, because the bracket moved in a direction nobody accounted for. Their preparation for that specific opponent is thin. The margin going into the game is tighter than it should be. The chain of consequences in this format runs longer and gets harder to control than anything the World Cup has asked coaches to manage before. What actually frightens the big teams isn't the heat, even though the heat is real. It isn't the unfamiliar opponents, even though several of those have caused real problems. It's the fact that this format gives nobody a moment to switch off. No game where the result floats free of consequences. No match where it's genuinely fine to hold something back. One bad afternoon. One lineup that played it a bit too safe. One goal dropped in a game that looked already wrapped up. Any of those things can reroute the path to the final in a direction nobody saw coming. That's what nobody fully prepared for, and that's what's playing out right now. Every game matters, first group match to the final, no exceptions.